The Cigar Nerds Podcast.
And welcome to the Cigar Nerds Podcast. I'm your host, Smokin' Joe.
I'm Brad Jackson.
And he's smoking this week. No vape review this episode.
But wait, there's a surprise.
Oh, God. So, what are we smoking this week, Brad?
This week we have the La Palina Silver Label, a TAA exclusive.
Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about Season 3 of The Mandalorian later, so we figured this went with Din Djarin's sweet chrome-ass armor. Yeah, so I was like, silver label. All right, that'll play.
You know, I'm just waiting on you to get old, and we can just start dubbing you the Silver Fox.
I mean, I'm already getting streaks in the beard, so it probably won't be too much longer before I am, like, I'm just going to go full-blown Sam Elliott.
This is a very, very islandy, very Honduran cigar. With a Honduras wrapper, binder from Costa Rica, and filler from Costa Rica, Honduras, and Nicaragua.
Yeah, Cuban seed wrapper grown in Honduras, Costa Rican binder, and various Nicaraguan, Costa Rican, and Honduran blend. And
I don't know, for me, like
I like La Palina keeping their naming their cigars very simple for us dumb folk. It's like we got blue label, bronze label, white label. It's kind of like Johnny Walker Scotch. It's like pick a color. I don't have to remember the some long Spanish word. It's like, nah, give me the silver, the blue, the whatever. But they also say this is supposed to be the strongest cigar with the La Palina name, because they're not known for their strong cigars. And this
I think La Palina tries to, stick...
that smooth, creamy.
Yes. And, I mean, this is definitely stronger than some of the other La Palinas, but I would still put this at a medium.
Yeah, it's definitely stronger than what they normally make, which I appreciate a full body stick with a little kick to it. And it's like you said, very oaky. It kind of reminds me like what we smoked, or what I smoked last week. It had that, kind of like charred whiskey. But this is a more, which that one was like I'll say a sweet woody. This is more like.
This is like a toasty.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
a different
say,
oaky.
Like, we did the Kentucky Fired Cured. I would put that one at charred.
Yeah. This one's a toasted oak.
Yeah, this one right here. So think of toast. Charred being black. Toast just having that, a little bit of light brown, just enough to know that, hey, the bread's been, warmed.
Sniffing some whiskey barrels. Yeah.
I need whiskey.
I still got another week. Oh.
That's good, though.
See, I need to go back to... I went to the Renaissance Festival the other day, but I couldn't drink any mead. So, I need to go back before the Renaissance Festival ends so I can enjoy some of that. They had an 11%, I think it was Monk's Mead.
Yeah, I just... I've learned the couple of meaderies that I've been to and everything. I think out of about the, 12 or 13 meads I have tried, I found one that I could say, all right, this is drinkable, and I could, for me, mead is just way sweet or something. I don't know. It
kind of, you either get super sweet or you get very dry, almost like champagne-y, and I'm like, this is I'm if I drink a wine, I want a Merlot, something dark and oaky and not that dry your mouth out.
Oh, see, I love a good cab, but a lot of the cabs have that oaky alcohol type taste, that I've learned to love from whether it's whiskey or bourbon or whether it's cigars, and give me a nice steak and a cab, and I'm right there. Or a little Chianti with some fava beans,
and a liver.
And some liver.
Oh,
chicken liver though, not beef liver. Figured out.
Not Steve liver. Yeah, beef liver's a little bit too bloody. I like that nice, copper flavor.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but definitely prefer, chicken over beef, and definitely breaded and fried versus, just sliced and, cooked and smothered in onions.
Well, since you've been on the road a lot, have you tried any mountain oysters in your travels? I know those can be a delicacy out in the Midwest there.
I was looking for restaurants like that, and I'm sure that
it was there, just never where you
it's there, but
came across.
I was in such remote regions that, it's like, all right, we got a gas station and a few fast food joints. And nothing for hours and hours.
Yeah, and I definitely wouldn't try gas station mountain oysters. That's something that I'm like, that's a step too far.
Although, where was I? I think
I might give it a shot in a restaurant, but gas station oysters, negative.
I think I was in Nebraska, and it was like 2:00 in the morning, snowstorm from hell, and I came to a little, and I'm like, all right, I haven't seen civilization in a long time, so this is just where I'm hunkering down for the night. And I went into the gas station, and I'm trying to remember what the hell they had. Oh, chicken gizzards. So I had gas station chicken gizzards.
I gotta say, the one kind of exception to the don't eat gas station food is if they have an attached barbecue joint. Now, roadside barbecue gas stations, that's some of the best friggin' barbecue that I've had in my travels, but anything else from a gas station's questionable.
I mean, here's the thing. Once you get out on the road, you realize it's not all that bad. Sometimes if you just see roller grill option, that's a luxury.
Depends on how close the next bathroom is.
Well, that's the beauty of when there's no civilization. You just
the world is your toilet.
Exactly.
This is the way.
That is the way.
Oh, and speaking, if you've got to fight Imperial remnants, you should call in the Strike Force. StrikeForceEnergy.com. Use your promo code Cigar Nerds for 20% off your order. Comes in nice little 10 packs, all chrome like Din Djarin's armor. Yeah, so if you got a Mando up, get you some Strike Force. And this week we're going to be talking about the 3rd season of a little show called The Mandalorian,
which is what Star Wars should have been all from the beginning.
Yes. And with that, we will be what kind of flavors you picking up so far in this early light? Other
Toasty
than the
oak. A little bit of earth. A little bit of leather, and I'm gonna throw this at you.
Peppery.
There is a touch of spice, but I'm trying to figure out if that's just the heat coming from the cigar, but a little raisiny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because according to the website, because you've always had a better palate than me. I'm just it's either good or it's not good, where you can pick out flavors better than I can. And they are saying characteristics of fresh soil, you said earth, charred oak, we had that, black pepper, mineral, clove, molasses, and sweet florals. Which
I don't know
that sounds
what
raisiny to me.
The hell mineral, clove, and everything else is.
Yeah, whoever comes up with these flavor profile, I'm like, what is the fuck? It's kind of was it Ricky Rodriguez, where he's people always talk about earth and soil. What are you chewing on dirt? What do you know? How do you know what that tastes like?
Because I've wrecked many bikes in my day without helmets, and what's the first thing you do? Get a mouthful of dirt. That, or you're following.
You drop a snack, a 5-second rule. Sometimes you get a little extra flavoring.
Yeah.
If you're outside.
Been working in auto mechanics, hands covered in grease and oil, and I mean, bread just absorbs all that shit. It's delicious.
Oh, this is the way. And with that, we'll be right back. And welcome back to the podcast. It's time to get Mandalorian.
I mean,
Mando.
I don't have any Beskar.
Need to get some,
you got a sweet helmet. I don't have a helmet.
Need to get whatever King of Camo to paint one of my guns like Beskar. Which basically, you look at Beskar, it's basically Damascus steel, but laser proof. But it has that nice Damascus look.
Yeah, I saw some really sweet Damascus knives today.
Oh, hell, I went to the Ren Fest last week. And speaking of Mandalorian, I'm like, this is how popular this show is. I wore my camo Mythosaur skull t-shirt that I'm wearing today. I've got so many, like, this is the way. This is the way. As I was, like, walking around the con, I was like, oh, yeah, my people are here. There's a lot of secret Mandos in this...
Dude, Renaissance...
in this Renaissance Festival.
Renaissance Festival, you know... Anime Weekend like all of those are just little precursors to what is, you know, the full entourage of Dragon Con.
But there is one booth there that sells nothing but Damascus knives and swords, and they look badass. But yeah, there's like, I was like the whole day I'm like, I'm going, this is the way. Yeah, this is the way. Yeah, this is the way. This is the way. Oh, I was like, my people are here. So yeah, we finally got after like a long delay which I don't even consider it that much of a delay because there was so much of the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, which was kind of like Secret Mando season 3. That season 3, like, you know, it's like this feels like season 4.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, like Star Wars was kind of difficult for me to really get into. Like, if I would have had space pirates and all of the shit that I saw in this season of Mandalorian, I'm like, where was all of this in Star Wars from the get-go? Like, I've always, you know, heard you talk about the books and like, oh, this is so badass and everything else, and I'm like, I don't even know where to start on the books. And then, like, now it's like, I really need to read the fucking books.
And the books now, like, I mean, there's some good Mandalorian stories in the books, but then most of that stuff is like non-Disney now. It's all in the like the Legends series. If you're someone who hasn't jumped into the Mandalorian or any of the Disney Plus series, fucking go back and watch the animated Clone Wars and Rebels. There are so many tie-ins with especially Mandalorian culture in those cartoon series that have now made the jump to live action. I mean, kind of helps that Dave Filoni is like one of the you know, directors, executive producers, showrunners.
Can we just have him just focus on Star Wars from here on out? Like,
yeah, can we just stop with the Disney like trilogy movies and just let Dave and Jon Favreau do all the Star Wars things? Which at that last whatever big Star Wars when they released all the kind of like new trailers, they announced, don't know when it's going to be set or when it's going to be released, but they're actually letting Dave direct a feature-length movie. I mean, why not at this point? Because the 3 seasons of The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett have been just insane. Like, I think when we said before the mic's on, like, the last 3 episodes of this season is better than the last 3, like, actual Star Wars movies. I've enjoyed the Disney Plus series, even Obi-Wan Kenobi, which wasn't probably the greatest. Still like the stuff on Disney Plus more than the last 3, like, you know, episode 6, 7, 8, or whatever, 7, 8, 9, whatever the fucking last 3 movies were. Like, this shit is Star Wars. Is more Star Wars than, like, the new Disney shit to me.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I mean, this really seemed to encompass the full package, you know, whether it was space battles, ground battles, like, hand-to-hand shit, weapon shit. Like, you get everything. Plus, you just get, you know, some of the general, you know, folks that, like, you know, I've heard you talk about, you know, Thrawn and other stuff like that, and like, oh, okay, yeah, now I'm able to like really put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, and it's like they've brought so many of the things from like the animated stuff to like live. Anyway, Bo-Katan Kryze was, I mean, we got a little bit of her last season, and she's pretty much in almost every episode this season. But, you know, freaking Katie Sackhoff is the one who voiced her in the animated series. And then we also got Zeb from Rebels made a brief cameo this season, even voiced by the, you know, voice actor which we fucking interviewed a couple of years ago. You know, he voiced the live action version of Zeb from Rebels, and you know, we talked last week about the Ahsoka trailer, and it's like just about everyone else from Rebels is is now going live action. So it's like, it's like as soon as you let Dave Filoni play, he's like, I'm gonna take all these badass animated characters and we're gonna make them live action.
And that's awesome, though.
And we're gonna sell all the toys. Because now I only own 2 Funko Pops. Both of them are versions of Grogu. Now I want the if they have a Funko Pop IG-12 like battle suit where they turned him into like full Krang. Yes.
No.
He should have had a "This is the way" button. But yeah, Book of Boba Fett was like a straight up Western, where this one had a lot of good Western feel to it, especially, and we're kind of jumping all around. We'll kind of, I guess, go back and go in order at some point, but them fighting the pirates, that was like,
this was legit space cowboy shit.
Yeah. I mean, even, and like, so we're not there yet, but the ending, like when we get around talking about the ending, that is straight up space cowboy shit.
I don't know. It just, I mean, not to say any of the previous seasons were a disappointment, or anything, but this kind of just set like a whole new standard for me.
Yeah,
like my problem is now, like, if it's not, the producers and directors of the next, like,
yeah, if it's
I'm afraid I'm not gonna like it, because I'm like, between episodes 7, 8, and 9, I'm just like, all right, I get it. You're trying to bridge the gap between the old school fans while trying to keep the franchise alive with new characters and stuff for new fans. And I'm like, I'm over here in the middle, like, I just want to fucking see space battles and, ground battles and, like,
I see stormtroopers getting shot in the face.
Yeah, like,
fuck the.
I don't care about all the family drama. Like,
and I like the kind of the problem with like the new movies to me was like, how bad is the rebellion if we're still fighting some kind of imperial remnant? And some of the newer books I've been reading, I read the last one I finished was Bloodlines, and it's very much before the rise of the the First Order, which was like the bad guys in the new movies, and you kind of see that like the rebellion was really good at being a rebellion, and you also kind of see it in this where they're shitty at being a legitimate government. It's like, cool, we won the war, now we have to start a government, and they just immediately get bogged down in like a ton of bureaucracy where they can't actually, when they were a rebellion, when it's just like, hey, fuck it, this over here needs to be done, let's just grab some guys and go kick ass. Now it's like, gotta go ask for permission, and we gotta requisition this other shit, and it's like, no wonder like they failed, because it's like, yeah, in the books are like, yeah, as soon as we took over the government, we didn't want a authoritarian government anymore, so we're gonna kind of cut back our military to just like a basic police, what we need to kind of police the galaxy, do it, and we're not gonna have a central leader, we're gonna have just a giant Congress that, hell, we know from our own Congress can't fucking agree on shit. So it's like nothing ever gets done because there's just constantly political bickering because they're afraid to have like one central leader after dealing with the Empire. And it's like, yeah, bureaucracy killed the New Republic and allowed like the fucking Empire to be reborn as the First Order.
I don't know. I think to me that just goes to, free will and everything else, I mean, dude, like the cynic in me would be like, all right, the Jedis are supposed to be the good guys, right? But hey, we're gonna nab your kid and indoctrinate him into this way of life, and this is the only way, and that's good. This other way over here is all bad, though. Don't go that way.
Gotta be the good space wizards, not the bad space wizards.
Yeah, like, where shouldn't we be trying to find sort of a balance, like, and an actual way to, which I guess then again, there can't be a problem if, one side's wiped out, but then you open yourself up to disagreements and shit, within.
It's like Bo-Katan says at one point. It's like Mandalore has always been too strong to be defeated by any enemy. Like, we always defeat ourselves because of the infighting, and like, we're the Mandalorians are the biggest threat to Mandalore.
That shit sent like that speech. I'm just like, that's what the fucking U.S. president needs to be saying right now.
Yeah, fucking.
Like right now, we've got so many labels and so divided, and we can, separate ourselves because of any millions of reasons.
And Din's speech to her when she's like, I don't know if I can keep like your tribe and my tribe, like they're too different and they're too like, I don't know if I can keep us together to rebuild. Like, this sword is the only thing keeping me leader. And he's like, my people don't give a fuck about that sword. Like, only thing I know about that sword is what you've told me. So like, no, like my people, like I believe in like honor, loyalty, and character. That's why I'm following you. Your story's not been written yet, and I will serve you till it is. And it's like, oh damn, Dan, you like,
got philosophical,
dropping that game on her. She's like, oh shit, why don't you take off that helmet, boy, and we get down.
Oh god.
I was like, they had, because there's shit we've wondered.
Rocket production now, just because you spoke it.
Oh, I mean, we've wondered how the followers of the creed that never take off their helmets, like, how and she's like, how do you eat? He's like, oh, you don't, like, just take your food and wander off by yourself, and then you can take your helmet off to eat. Did they? I mean, because Paz Vizsla had a kid. It didn't say he was a foundling. He's like, that's my son. Do they get naked but leave the helmets on? Is what I want to know about the. Is there Mando helmet sex? Is what I want to know now. And if I ever see Dave Filoni at a con, I'm like, Dave, I got one important question. Do Creed Mandos fuck with the helmet on? Is that how we get little Mandos? Or is that why adoption is such big in that culture? Because the helmeted Mandos aren't getting any. They're like monks.
I didn't want to know, but now I want to know.
Oh,
this is why we can never have a serious podcast.
Like I say, the first episode, you see like the Mandalorian's covert has relocated to some kind of like canyon-y planet with very violent animal life, but you see the kid taking the oath in the water and stuff. And I very much thought this was a flashback. Like, I'm like, is that young Din being, like, sworn in? And then, big space alligator comes out of the water and tries to eat. And all of a sudden he, like, swoops in and, like, blows it up with the N1 Chrome Fighter. And I'm like, oh, no, this is, like, real time. Like, I thought this was a flashback. I was like, is that little Din, like, getting sworn in? And, like, no, that's some other kid, Din's just showing up for a visit.
Hey guys, I'm here. Didn't abandon you.
They're like, you're still not a Mandalorian. He's like, but if I go, I've finished my mission with with everything. I got him back to his people.
Baptize myself.
I got him back to his people, and he came back to me. I went and helped out Boba Fett. So if I can bathe in the water, can we do this? Because somebody said Mandalorian's not fucked. And they're like, all right, this is the way. Go for it. Yeah. We'll see you when we see you. And he goes to see Bo-Katan, and she's just like chilling in her castle by herself. He's like, where's your fleet and where's your army? And she's like, dude, I didn't get the saber, they all like fucked off. They're all like out being mercenaries, and I'm just here chilling in my castle being like depressed and whatnot. If you want to go back to Mandalore, like, have at it, homie.
Yeah, I don't know.
But for thing I love about it, for someone who's very much like, fuck off, don't bother me anymore, the second Grogu shows up and is like, he's in trouble, she's like, fucking weird. Like, just immediately, because she's like, oh, that asshole's returning. I'm going to tell him to fuck off once and for all. And as soon as the kid's like, daddy needs help, she's like, fucking jump in the ship, let's go. Where's he at? Like, just immediately was like, nope, like, I gotta go save this dumb fucker.
You need a mommy.
Yeah, she could have very much told him to go fuck himself, but she's like, nope. Like, as soon as the kid's like, we need help, she's like, all right, I'm in. That's why she's the new Mandalore. But dude, like, before even that, he's like, well, just in case Mandalore is poison, I need a robot to scout for me. So I'm going to go back and find the one robot that I trusted, and goes visits his old buddy Creed to try to rebuild IG-12 or IG-11. And they got those little bastards from like that are like supposed to be like great freaking droid mechanics, kind of like the dude in the last Star Wars movie. And fucking Grogu's like picks them up and starts hugging him like, no, bad baby, no squeeze. I'm guarantee this Christmas there's going to be like toys of those little fuckers.
If not, like, I'm going to be disappointed because, dude, we've talked about it time and time again. Like, the cross-merchandising and everything that used to go on, like, you know.
I mean, there are Grogu weed pipes on Facebook Marketplace now. You can smoke weed out of Grogu. I mean, it's...
He's already green.
Yeah. Happy Earth Day. And 420 was just... Yeah. So yeah, it's like as you said, like the merchandising of this has been huge. So yeah, I'm waiting for. I mean, I've got a knit Din Djarin on the table. I picked up at a con for someone who was knitting action figures. I should have bought the Jabba the Hutt, but it sold before I came back to that booth.
This is the way.
This is the way. Speaking of which, the armorer. I saw a video of her. I forgot what con it was, but she showed up like in full costume and nobody knew it was her. And she's just like walking around like, hello, this is the way. And they're like, oh man, badass costume. And then like, finally, like, you know, they go to, I guess, her panel and shit. And then she's there with like all the Mandalorians, and then takes the helmet off and they're like, oh fuck. Just blew everybody's mind. They're like, it's really her. Oh, wait, what? Emily Swallow or something like that. I think's her name. But yeah, she just like shows up at freaking Star Wars conventions as the armor, and then like surprises the fuck out of all the Mandos.
That's awesome.
I was a little disappointed though when, yeah, of course, when Mando goes to visit Navarro, some pirates show up because Grief's made a turn. He's a good, legitimate, benevolent ruler now, but he used to do some shady shit, and like the pirates show back up. He's like, nah, dude, this is school now. Like, fuck off with that shit.
This isn't your bar.
And like Mando's just over there, kind of like all propped up, and then like, I mean, they just go like fucking Clint Eastwood on those dudes, and then they try to like shoot the Mando down as he's leaving, and there's a big pirate ship. Could it be? And no, it was some weird like fucking moss looking dude. I was like, I wanted to see Hondo. As you're dealing with space pirates, give me a Hondo Anaka. Like this, I was like, kind of like, there's been so many animated characters we've seen showing up in live action. We got Cad Bane and Zeb and fucking. I was like, is the pirate gonna be Hondo? Nope, it wasn't Hondo.
It was not. No.
I really wanted a Hondo appearance.
Although the effects of the pirates and everything are really spot on.
And they looked like pirates. I mean, they dressed as how you would think, like, especially the guys like on the ship. It's like, these are pirates. It's like, this is awesome. It's fucking Pirates of the Caribbean in space.
Only a little more scaly.
And he's like, never trust a pirate, kid. And just leaves them there. Oh, but that when they come back and try to take over Navarro and they call for help and try to get the New Republic to help, and the New Republic's just like, oh no, we can't interfere. They're not and homeboy captain, that captain that's showed up.
I think there is definitely still some Empire influence abound.
Yeah, we saw that whole episode of like, oh, they're just like trying to rehabilitate former Imperials. We got the Doctor, whatever, Dr. Pershing or whatever that, and the comm officer from Gideon's ship that later on we find out is actually spying for Gideon. a New Republic convert in name only. But yeah, when he's like, all right, well, I can't get the New Republic to help him. I'm gonna go visit the Mandalorians, and it's like, hey, your old buddy's in trouble. And he's like, and that's another thing too, because we've seen the R7, who is that's the same droid that Luke tried to buy that blew its motivator, and he ended up getting R2 instead, and eventually ended up with the Mando's mechanic there. So when he can't rebuild IG-11, he goes, sees her looking for parts, and she's like, well, I'll just sell you this guy here. Well, in some of the old books, there's it's a series of short stories, but that droid was actually a rebel spy, and it blew up its motivator on purpose so Luke would buy R2. So when he shows up and he's like, how'd you find us? We kind of prize ourselves on secrecy. He's like, well, lucky for me, a guy I served with in the rebellion is actually part of your group. And they're like, what? And then he's like, how's it going, R5? And it's like, I was like, oh shit, that old short story, it's fucking true. He is a damn rebel spy. So I thought that was kind of a cool detail that only real Star Wars nerds who've read all the shit would understand that that reference.
It's what makes me feel so secluded. So I'm like, there's so many little subtleties that
That's what's great about what they're doing. I mean, if you're not kind of a Star Wars historian, you can still enjoy the stuff. But then if you are someone who's deep in the lore, there's always just little things that you're like, oh shit, that's the thing. Like in the fucking Ahsoka trailer when she's calls Thrawn heir to the Empire. I'm like, I've read those books. I know. She said the thing.
Yes, a thing was said.
But yeah, that's really the first time we've seen a lot of Mandalorians fighting together. I mean, usually it's they kind of operate in shadows. It's one or two guys, but when he shows up and is like, hey, I know it's not your fight, but I know you're a good dude and your buddy's in trouble. Just wanted to let you know there's pirates on Navarro. What you do with that information is what you do with that information. I'm not going to tell anybody where you're hiding unless y'all want to, I know you're going to move.
I know you're going to, relocate anyway, but,
I'm not going to tell anyone if for what that's worth. But, and Paz Vizsla, who's kind of been antagonistic this whole time throughout the series, turns out to be a good dude. So, Din and Bo, save his child from the fucking pterodactyl looking motherfucker. And so, Din addresses the group and he's like, hey, I got no right to ask y'all to join me, but this guy saved my life and the life of my Padawan here, and I want to go save him, and I can't do it alone, so I just want to ask all y'all. And then he stands up I got something to say. This guy's we've risked our lives for this guy, and we've risked his lives for this other. How much more should we risk? Why should we help him? And everyone's like, yeah. And he's like, because we're Mandalorians. That's what we do. It's like, oh, shit. He's like, these guys saved my kid. And they're like, he's an honorable dude. So we're fucking Mandalorians. If he says this guy needs help, we go help him. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. And then they go, put in work.
Oh, yeah, dude. I don't know. How do I sign up to be the light machine gunner fucking Mando?
Light hell, Mando was heavy. Yes. I was like, oh, if I ever have the money to buy a Mando, get me some Mandalorian armor, I'm like, I kind of want to go heavy Mando, because that fucking is walking around with that chain gun smoking fools. I was like, oh, that's just so badass. Hell, even the fucking fight with the damn dragon thing. Oh, and even before that, the episode where he goes to bathe in the waters and then finds out that Mandalore isn't I mean, it's fucked up, but it's not
it's
uninhabitable.
Not cursed,
there's weird monsters and shit, and he gets beat up by a little lizard thing in a mech suit. But after he bathes in the water, and then there's a big crater here, and I didn't bring my jetpack, I'm just gonna sink to the bottom of this, and Bo has to dive in and save him. And then you see the mythosaur Like, the mythosaur has always been just, like, an extinct legendary thing, but somehow the bombing has, like, reawakened a long dormant mythosaur. And I kept waiting for that thing to, like, show up at some point. Like, fucking Bo to, like, ride back in on the mythosaur. Maybe we'll get that in season 4. But, yeah, when she saves him and is, like, swimming back up, and then you see, like, her look over, and there's, like, a big-ass eye opens. You're like, holy fuck, they really did a mythosaur. That's the thing that, like, blew my mind watching that. That's because, like, that's the mythosaur skull is, like, has always been a symbol of, like, the Mandalorians, and it's like, but it's always been, like, kind of a legendary extinct creature. But, like, to see it, like, fuck, they did it. There's a goddamn mythosaur. That shit blew my mind the first time I watched that.
Yeah, I looked over at Rachel and said, yeah, I found the Mandalorian Jesus.
Yeah, like that later on when, like, Bo and the armor is talking, she's like, what if I told you I saw one? And she's like, oh, that's a very powerful vision. He's like, no, really, I fucking saw one. It was real. Oh, and what about our other guest star when Grogu earns his first piece of armor, and he, she's like, in there making him a little kind of chest plate for his chainmail, and he starts having a flashback to, like, Order 66, and we finally learn how he escaped Order 66. He's rescued by a Jedi, Master. What the hell is his name? It's like Kelleran Beck. Did you recognize the actor playing said Kelleran Beck? That is Ahmed Best, better known as Jar Jar Binks. Apparently, which I did. Disney has a Star Wars Kids YouTube channel, and he had a game show that was kind of like Secrets of the Hidden Temple, where kids were training to be Jedis, and he hosted as this character Kelleran Beck, and then they brought him in as to be the guy who, like, rescues Grogu and gets him off the planet, and he's, like, fucking dual wielding, because apparently he's supposed to be, like, in the lore, like, a badass, like, sword master and specializes in dual wielding lightsabers. And it's kind of cool that the guy that kind of got a lot of shit for the prequels got to, like, kind of redeem himself.
I finally got a redemption character.
Got to be a badass. Just fucking up clone troopers.
And I tell a polar opposites.
Yeah. It's a me. Or fucking.
It's a misa.
Yeah, he didn't have to do a stupid Gungan accent. He just got to, like, be badass and
Mr. Binks.
save Grogu. Oh, so yeah, that
or
was
does
badass.
something tragic happen? And he goes from being a badass, and the transformation is you are now a Jar Jar.
He becomes a fucking Inquisitor. Oh, and I like the episode Guns for Hire, which was actually directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, where after they rescued Navarro from the pirates, Navarro is like, y'all may not have a home planet anymore, but you have a home here. We're going to give you, like, this big plot of land. Y'all don't have to hide anymore. Come start your own community here for as long as y'all want to be here. And then the armorer kind of tells Bo to take her helmet off. She's like, but I thought this was the way. And she's like, it's still the way, but you've walked in both worlds, and we can't have our, like, kind of religious branch of Mandalorians fighting with the kind of, I guess, more modern Mandalorians. The only way we're going to be able to rebuild Mandalore is together. We're stronger together. You walk in both worlds. You're the one that has the ability to bring us all together, because I've seen you live by the creed, and you've lived by the other ones. Like, so I'm going to task you with going and finding the rest of the Mandalorians and bringing them back. So she goes to find her fleet and get her army back, and they're running security on this planet of, like, rich dudes, and we get our Couple big cameos this season. We find the rulers of said planet is Lizzo and Jack Black. And their head of security is Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah. God, it was fucking awesome seeing Christopher Lloyd. I don't remember what the last thing I saw him in was.
Nobody. He was the dad in Nobody. And it was like fucking people up with shotguns. Yeah, I think so. That's the last thing I saw him in. It was that movie, Mr. Nobody or whatever it was, or Nobody. Yeah. Oh, but I like they're like, we're a true democracy. We vote on everything, and we got a battle droid problem, and it's like, well, y'all have an army outside. You know, why don't they're like, well, we passed a law that no standing army can enter the city. And also, we've banned, like, weapons and stuff. Our cops are even unarmed. But we're also have freedom of religion. And I know you're Mandalorians, and weapons and armor are part of your religion. So, loophole! Y'all help us out by taking care of our battle droid problem, and we'll, promote y'all as a independent, back y'all as, like, Mandalorians are a real, government or whatnot. And, yeah, she looks at Den and she's like, what do you think? And he's like, you had me at killing battle droids. I'm down. But I like this kind of one-off episode where it's very much had like a cop feel to it. It's like a buddy cop show. It's like, the fucking Den is like the bad cop, and Bo's like the good cop and shit. And she's like, no, we need to negotiate. And he's like, no, we need to like kick fucking droid's ass. And it's like, I was like, I would watch a whole like detective series of like Bo and Den just like solving crimes on random planets.
Yeah, and I mean, and I don't know, maybe that's part of what made season 3 so great. Because one, you had the good cop, bad cop. Then you had, sort of your spy / espionage, sort of episodes like.
But yeah, this whole like detect like mystery show, like it was basically a detective drama with Bo-Katan and Din Djarin. And I like when they go when she kind of walks in and tries to like kind of talk down to the Ugnaughts, and like Din's like, nah, I got this. I've dealt with these people before, and like kind of shows her how to like
their way of communicating.
Yeah, and then he's like also like, fuck all droids, and she's like, no, we gotta like you can't just go around, which reminded me of kicking the fucking Boston Dynamic dogs and just out there like poking droids till one of them attacks him. He's like, I found him, didn't I? But she's like, no, you gotta also be more, diplomatic with like, fucking find out like Christopher Lloyd's the one like sabotaging the robots, and he's just going off about like he's like, I'm a separatist. I didn't surrender to the Empire or the New Republic or any of these. And then she finally just like shoots him with a stun dart. She's like, fucking politics. Oh. And I like something he says to with the Queen's like, can I hold the baby? And he's like, it takes him a while to warm up to people until she feeds him. And he's like, nah, man. But if you see like all the times he rides in the ship with Bo-Katan, like the first time, he's like in the very back of like the cockpit. The second time you see them together, he's like hovering like right next to her chair. And then like the end of that episode, he's like sitting in her lap as they're flying away. It's like, he's like, this is my space mommy now.
Yeah. Space mommy.
Oh. Yeah, when she confronts homeboy that's leading those branch of the Mandalorians now, and they just like, she's like, I challenge you as a warrior, and like fucking have that badass fight. And then he's finally like, well, it doesn't matter if you beat me, you can't lead us, you don't have the sword. And he's like, well, that's all she needs to lead here, like have the sword. And it's funny because Gideon last season told him, he's like, it's not about the weapon, it's about the story. So he makes a story that the Mandalorians will accept. And she's like, no, you can't just give it to me. He's like, I'm not giving it to you. Like, I was defeated by some dude, and she had to come and save me. And then she defeated the guy who defeated me. So technically, this sword belongs to her, correct? And they're all like, yeah. that'll work. And they're like, all right, yeah, I'm just giving it back to his rightful owner. And he's like, said, not about the sword. It's about the fucking story that he weaves that makes it, like she defeated somebody in battle that had the sword. So that works.
I'll allow it.
Yeah. And then leading them all back to Navarro to link up with the other Mandos, and the fucking old Imperial cruiser with the Mythosaur skull painted on the bottom. I was like, that's badass. When they all just go flying in, the fucking droids were like, Magistrate, the Empire, and he's like, that's not the Empire. Like, those are Mandalorians.
Well, how can you know?
You see that big ass fucking skull? Look at the markings. He's like, there's an Imperial shuttle. He's like, first of all, that's a light cruiser. That is not a shuttle. You dumbass. Second, those are Mandalorians. Those are our space homies. Because it's like,
but I mean, that is the thing. Like, there's a lot of space technology and everything that would need to be repurposed. Like,
that's the thing too. Is like we've always, before this, most people only know Mandalorians from Boba Fett, so it's, and Jango Fett, who were kind of bad guy. I mean, they worked for the Empire, but so we've not really seen like Mandalorians being good guys. And it's like, oh no, it's like, seeing them as a people versus like the kind of highest bidder mercenaries that, we're used to seeing them as. And so it's like, showing them being a force of good in the galaxy because in that book I read where basically it shows Leia creating the Resistance, and she's like, the New Republic can't handle threats because it's too bogged down in politics. We need people like when we were a rebellion. This just does good because it's the right thing to fucking do. So I'm going to protect the people regardless of what the fucking government tells me to do. It's like, here's Rebellion 2.0. Like, we're gonna save people, like, regardless of what, the government allows.
So in the end, can we just say government bad? Like,
yeah, people good, government bad.
And the good people can accept, hey, there's evil people that should have to deal with consequences.
Yeah. Free men don't need permission. And weapons are part of my religion. Oh. But yeah, the final 2 episodes of this season are probably some of the best best Star Wars I've ever seen. Chapter 23, The Spies, when they're going to go back and scout Mandalore and try to resettle it, and they basically, the atmosphere is so full of radiation from the bombings, it blocks communication between planet and space. So they're like, all right, we're going to park the fleet out here and we're going to take like a single ship full of guys down just to scout and kind of see if everything's cool before we bring everybody down. And they're going to get separated. And the episode starts off too with like Moff Gideon like in his secret base with the Imperial Shadow Council, which eventually will become the First Order or whatever. But you see all these like people that you think are warlords are actually still secretly kind of running the Empire. And we get Captain Paleon, which, if you read the books, Paleon is like huge. He's like a big Imperial. He's like was basically Grand Admiral Thrawn's right-hand man in all like the books and shit. So seeing him like live action, kind of leading one of whatever chapter. And we also get Hux, which, is I guess supposed to be the father of the guy who was like the big bad in General Hux and the 3 Disney sequels. And fucking Gideon's like running like secret cloning programs. He's like, Yeah, and Homeboy's like, oh yeah, you're head of the Necromancy Project, which is, as we know in the Star Wars movies later on, that like they basically resurrect a clone emperor, and apparently that's what he's doing. But fucking Gideon's also like, fuck this, I'm gonna make my own clone so I can be immortal, and you know, he's got his little secret base full of but then when you find out as the Mandos explore deeper into Mandalore, that's where Gideon's been hiding. He's actually built a secret base inside Mandalore and has been basically building these Imperial super commandos with fucking Beskar armor. And he's like, you know, everything in the galaxy, you know, has a use, you know, even the Mandalorians. But yeah, I'm gonna kill all you Mandalorians, but I'm gonna take your technology and your armor and shit and use it to build my new empire.
Yeah, it's like, I just robbed you of all your tools and resources.
And he's basically trying to be Darth Vader. He's got, like, the black suit, and he's like, I'll take care of these myself. Like, very fucking, you know, Vader-esque.
But, I mean, you know, then again, is that not the root of all evil, where, you know, one person, you know, has that desire for power?
Yeah, and even they're all the Shadow Council like, well, you know, we're just waiting on Admiral Thrawn to return, and he's like, yeah, but I came from the Security Bureau, like, secrets are my game, and like, I've not heard anyone talk about Thrawn in the galaxy. So, you know, he doesn't even show up at the council meeting. He sends you, like, I think we need a new leader, you know, because this motherfucker hadn't shown up yet. So, I'm gonna take care of these.
I think
fucking
he would
Mandalorians.
take care of the council.
Yeah, it's probably what's going to be happening in the Ahsoka series. Is Thrawn's going to show up and fuck some shit up. But you didn't get to experience this because you wait until the series is done and then like binge it in a couple days.
Dude, I would have been
the
fucking
amount
like
of shit on the internet this last week, because this episode is titled Spies. We saw the one spy, the girl that is supposedly like an Imperial or whatever, a reformed Imperial, but she's really spying for Gideon. So when the Mandalorians get ambushed on Mandalore, Axe, who was leading Bo's forces before, he's like, we need reinforcements. So he like takes off and leaves them to go tell the people in orbit that the Empire is there. And then also the armorer took the injured back to the ship, so she left before the ambush. The amount of people online there's like, oh my god, the armorer is going to be a secret Imperial spy, or I was betting on fucking Axe being the Imperial spy. So for like that week, man, everybody was like, oh fuck, man, I can't believe the armorer is going to be a spy, like she's going to betray them all. And then like none of that happened. Both of them turned out to be good guys. But the amount of panic that was on the fucking internet for the last week until this final episode came out was like hilarious. It's like, I was like, oh, no fucking way. Like, yeah, there was so many like theories and rumors that she was going to betray them all because she left before the ambush, or Homeboy left during the ambush.
And that's part of the reason why I binge all of my shit. Like, that way, when I'm like, oh shit, I'm on the edge of my seat, but I know there's one more. Now, what happens is you get to the final episode, though, and I'm right in the same boat as everybody else.
Yeah, but I'm afraid I'm going to, like, see a spoiler or something, so I got to see that shit when it's...
Well, that's the reason why,
I can't wait 8 weeks to, like, see this shit. Like, no, I got to see it now. I'm too much hooked. I'm like, I got to know.
Like, I stay away from all of my usual nerd sites, and, you know, even, like I've unfollowed like a lot. So even if I'm scrolling through social media, like friends like you, or, you know, else, like you guys aren't going to discuss, you know.
Yeah, I know you've not watched it until it's done. You know, so hell, I'll usually like, hey, that thing's done now, so you can now go watch it if I'm watching something.
But normally,
show.
You know, like.
But yeah, we're in all the Dragon Con groups, and I'm in a bunch of Star Wars groups, so it's like, oh, I got to like be careful what I scroll through, because I'll see something on. And a lot of those places have done a good, like, all right, you get 48 hour, you know, at least 48 hours to like 3. Some groups I'm in, like, no, there's a week ban on spoilers, and they will like immediately like kick people from the group if you drop something. But I'm like, yeah, I don't want to accidentally see something because I'm outside the spoiler window. So this shit specific. I'm like, I can't binge it like I
like
do
I'll
Netflix
see
stuff.
like even like scrolling through like Google headlines or something. If I see something like Mando, I just scroll past it real quick. Like, nope, not reading that. But hell, most of the time I stay so busy like in between.
Yeah, you don't even have time to
like,
social media lately.
that. Or I may very well indeed read a spoiler, but then by the time I'm watching it, like my mind's shifted elsewhere. Like, dude, I can't even tell you what happened this last week.
But before we talk about the final episode, and we're kind of getting toward the end here, my man Paz Vizsla, dude went out like a G. That was like the saddest fucking thing. Cause like they get ambushed and Den gets captured, and fucking Gideon's doing his evil guy speech, and he's like, all right, now this is the part where you give me the sword back and surrender. And she just looks over at Paz and he goes, this is the way. And they just all start shooting the fucking glass while she's like runs to the back and starts cutting a hole with the lightsaber. And then like, once everybody escapes, he's like, we're clear. Come on. He's like, nah, there's too many on them. I'll hold the back. Go. This is the way. And then just fucking starts stacking bodies until his like chain gun like just literally like melts down. I was like, and then just starts using it as a weapon and just like fucks everybody up until like the 3 like Imperial guards come out with their like laser spear axe thingies. And even that, he's like, fuck it, pulls out his shield, pulled out his blade, and like, y'all gonna have to. I mean, the one guy stabs him in the gut and he just like pulls him closer so he can grab him by the throat. And he's like, I mean, that dude went out like a gangster. I was like, how many fucking super stormtroopers does he has? Because fucking Paz like smoked a bunch of fuckers.
Oh yeah. And I don't know, like, I think back to the stormtrooper era, and you would see like hundreds or thousands of them marching, and here it's like, oh. That hardened armor and everything must be harder to come by, because I only felt like you got 100 or so.
Yeah.
Like,
we're in the waning days of the Empire. Yeah, like, because, Gideon had a bunch of robots last time we seen him, but, these guys apparently were just humans in Beskar armor because, they made noises when they got killed. But yeah, the Mando's just, like, shooting in, like, weak points of the armor, and, that was just badass. But then we get the final episode. And I got to say, whoever Pedro Pascal's like stunt double is this season, because I know he has 2. He has one guy that does all the gunplay, and then he has a guy who does like the martial arts. Because he's like disarmed, and then escapes, and then Grogu shows up in his robo suit and like saves him. But then the rest of the episode, he's like a lot of hand-to-hand combat and martial arts and shit, and I'm like, that looks just badass. Him like going like fucking John Wick on motherfuckers, like. Doing that in that armor, I mean, I know it's not actual like metal and stuff, it's some kind of fucking plastic, so but still being able to move like that in that suit, like whoever his stunt double is a bad motherfucker. Because I was like, oh shit, as a martial artist, I'm like, oh man, this is my favorite episode, because you don't get to see a lot of like just Mando fist fighting people. I mean, it was badass.
It's fucking Keanu Reeves.
Yeah. Oh, and you see Ace get up to the atmosphere, and he's like, hey, Empire's coming to bomb us. Everybody go to the ground. I'm going to stay here as decoy and like blow up their Air Force with this ship. And you think he's going to like sacrifice himself. And, all the Mandos like, Lady, the fucking armor, like, Lady Kreesh, your reinforcements have arrived. And then like, you get that awesome like jetpack battle of like Mandos versus wannabe Mandos, like, fucking people up midair with like the damn Darksaber and shit. And it's
dude,
like,
that shit,
that was the most badass thing I've ever seen.
I mean,
in
granted,
Star Wars.
like, we've had some, cool Star Wars games with jetpacks and stuff. Like, this shit, like, absolutely could be a badass video game adaptation.
Oh yeah. Oh, but yeah, that just fight when they roll in there, and then Ace comes back with like the ship's on fire, and he's like, hey, I'm coming in hot. Get everybody out of the base. And just drops a fucking starship on Gideon's ass.
Bet you didn't see that coming.
No, I was like, nope, he's not the traitor. He's like, guys, I'm coming in hot. Literally like on flames, like, yeah, I'm going to take out this base. Leroy Jenkins.
But no, I mean, this this was really cool, just seeing all the different factions kind of coming together and how effectively they could operate. Like, when the armorer's like, I want, military precision, tactics. And it's like, oh, fuck. Like, I mean, even the smaller battles, like, when, they're in the fucking town just, taking out the pirates and shit. And I'm just
when she shows up there and, like, I have the high ground, just goes in there with their hammers and starts jacking dudes up. But yeah, then you could get Din versus the three, Din and Grogu fighting the three guards. And then her and Din, like, double teaming Gideon until the ship drops on him. And then, you also see how strong Grogu's getting in the Force, because the last time he tried to save them from, like, a fireball, like, he had to take a nap afterward, where this time it's like, I just saved us from the fireball. I'm just going to sit here for a second, but I'm good. I'm not going to, like, fucking pass out and sleep for the next 6 hours. He's definitely getting stronger.
So is he training himself in the way of the Force? I mean, because it's not like he's got a Jedi master to, try to show him the way or anything.
I think, like, Luke, like, unlocked some things that brief time he was training, and now he's just like, all right, I know how to access the Force, and now it's just a matter of, kind of using it, like, exercising it, and also, kind of using it to heighten his reflexes as he's, goes down his, like, Mandalorian training path, because, like, after that,
Dude, he's gonna be a fucking, like, the best of both worlds.
I want to see a fucking, like, helmet. Like, in the books, there's a Jedi who, like, in the Clone Wars, that didn't like how the Jedi were treating the clones, and after Order 66, he left the Order and became a Mandalorian. So there's been Jedi Mandalorian. I mean, well, that's where the Darksaber came from, was there, was a Jedi, a Mandalorian Jedi at one point. And so, yeah, seeing a little Mandalorian with Jedi powers, like, yeah, I want to see a full-on helmet next season. But with just ears sticking out of the helmet.
But it is definitely cool seeing his evolution, because instead of it constantly feeling like a escort mission, it's like,
yeah, he legit, like, like, did some shit this season where it's like, oh, you're getting there. You're not having to be something I protect.
And even like, like when they're on the way to the planet and, that brief squimish, and it's like, we can't intervene. This needs to play out. And he steps in his fucking droid suit and he's like, no. Like,
yeah. And she's like, your apprentice is, and he's like, he didn't learn that from me. Like, I definitely didn't teach him diplomacy. He learned that shit from watching you. But yeah, you get them restarting the Great Forge, and then you see that kid that almost got eaten, taking the creed now in the actual waters of Mandalore. And then Den steps up and he's like, Grogu, kicked ass. I don't want him to be a foundling anymore. I want him promoted to apprentice. And she's like, well, he still can't speak, so he can't take the creed yet. He's like, well, if we had parental permission, we could. And she's like, yes, but his family is either dead or on the other side of the galaxy. So he's like, well, in that case, I'll just adopt him as my son. And she's like, I was like, yeah, Armor knew that shit was coming. She was like leading him to it. And she's like, yeah, this is the way. From now on, you will be Din Grogu, Mandalorian apprentice. But speaking of Westerns, that ending where he goes, first he, she's like, well, now that he's an apprentice, you have to leave Mandalore, because I guess Mandalorian apprentices have to go on adventures and get some real world experience. So the first thing he does is go visit that fucking rebel base that looked very much like old Vietnam airstrip or something. And he goes to see the captain. He's like, yeah, congratulations on taking out Gideon. He's like, you would have got him eventually. I just found him first. But I want to talk to you about business. He's like, yeah. He's like, well, yeah, I got this kid now who's my apprentice. So I am a bounty hunter by trade, but I want to be more selective with the people I work for. So I'm assuming there's going to be a whole lot of Imperial warlords and whatnot that need tracking down. So I'm your guy. And he's like, well, that's, probably against regulations. He's like, and that's why you're not going to tell anybody. And he's like, all right. And he's like, I'll give you a good price on anybody I got to hunt down. And for killing Gideon, the only price I want is that assassin droid head you got sitting on your bar. And he's like, okay, whatever. Then he shows up back at Navarro, and he's like, got a present for you. And he fucking rebuilt IG-11. He's like, town needs a marshal. Now you've got RoboCop. And he's like, I am IG-11, fucking marshal. And then he gives him he's like, well, yeah, I told you I was gonna give y'all some land, so I had you a cabin built. So whenever you and your boys not off on adventures and you want somewhere to hang low, you've got a house to go to.
Isn't that kind of ironic though? Like, from saving the town from the pirates, we gave you an entire tract of, area. Like, you got a whole section of planet. Now it's like, all right, you got a parcel and you got a house.
You still got that big land we gave to all the Mandalorians when they show up, but here's one specifically for you. But you get that whole, him just, stepping out on the front porch and, sitting down in his chair and propping his feet up, and, kid playing by the creek, force juggling frogs that he finally doesn't eat. He's starting to learn restraint. And you get that, that bubble zoom in like a fucking end of a Looney Tunes cartoon. And it's that was, cowboy hanging up his spurs and relaxing on his porch after a hard day's work. I'm like, these are the best.
Hang my hat up.
These are the best space westerns.
Yes.
And even the space dogfighting we got this season was
I mean, that was the thing, dude.
I always like the X-Wing battles more than the Jedi shit in Star Wars. And the fucking dogfights with the pirates and the Imperials and everything else. Oh, this is fucking awesome.
I mean,
this is everything I've missed about the Disney Star Wars.
Whether it was ground, aerial, and, not only were we dealing with just, lightsabers and blasters, but now, we had a lot of hand-to-hand action. When
he does that move where he just flies, straight up and then, cuts the engines and turns back and goes, head-to-head with that fucking interceptor. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Or hell, Bo, fucking pulled the Top Gun
canyon,
move.
Yes.
She's like, don't worry, I used to fly these canyons as a kid, and scrapes one. She's like, it has been a while though. But then she does the thing where she just slams on the brake and spins the ship. I'm like, oh fuck, she just pulled the Top Gun move. I'm gonna throw on the brakes. They're gonna fly right by. The only thing I didn't see was her going inverted and giving somebody the finger. I was like, this is awesome. I mean, the last Top Gun movie basically ripped off Star Wars. I like the fact that Star Wars is going back the other way and ripping off Top Gun.
So we're taking it back.
Yeah. This is the way. Oh. So, do you think this is it, or do you think we're getting another, a season 4? Because I think they've wrapped up the story pretty good if they don't do any more, or do other things and just have Din show up like he did on Boba Fett, but...
I kind of feel like there's going to be a season 4. After the success and everything else,
if nothing else, there's going to be comic books or something, because now he's got a new mission. He's got to take Grogu out on his adventures as a Mandalorian apprentice, and he's got a job now, bounty hunting for the New Republic. So,
and I mean, still,
I kind of want to.
Mandalore isn't. It still isn't, its own prime. They
got a lot of rebuilding to do out over there.
Exactly. And the fact of, there was just this big battle on Mandalore. More and more people are going to realize, hey, this place isn't poison. That's going to, open them up to be a target. The
Mandalorians are back. And, I mean, I really like that one-off, like I said, the Buddy Cop episode where they were... So... If we get a season 4, I kind of would like to see more of that, where it's kind of an enemy of, instead of a big overarching story, an enemy of the week, where it's each week Din and Grogu are hunting down a different bounty.
Well, I mean, I think they can kind of keep that same most of the episodes were that big story, but then you had that break, and they can absolutely still continue to be this is setting the plot point for, the overall story, but in between, these are the adventures that are going on elsewhere.
Or does he show up at, the, end of Ahsoka, and it's all right, we got a target for you. You've got to find Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Or giving the success, we get a full-length feature film.
I mean, we already know Dave Filoni's tapped to direct a film at some point. Does he get just a full-on... big screen Mandalorian movie? That would, because so far there's no news of like when it's going to be set, what he's directing, and that he is just directing a movie. Instead of a season 4, do we get like a full Mando Grogu film?
Dude, could you imagine this on the fucking big screen?
Now, that's one I would definitely pay to go see in IMAX, a fucking Mandalorian movie. Oh, that would be fucking sweet.
Like, can we get the 4D theaters with like the motion chairs and shit? Like,
oh,
you're gonna want to buckle up for this one.
So as we wrap up, what are you thinking of this here La Palina?
Dude, the La Palina is good. This is a very easy smoking medium cigar. I will say that I definitely still think it's a medium, but it has slightly transition flavor just a little bit. So it certainly has some complexity to it. It's not a very expensive cigar. Probably one of the better La Palinas that I've smoked.
Yeah, it's definitely stronger than the other La Palinas I've had, while not being as strong as some of the other cigars I've smoked. But it does have a lot of good flavor, and it stayed pretty consistent. I mean, I've not really had to do any like touch up relights. It's well constructed. I mean, this is one that could, if you're not a heavy cigar smoker, this is definitely one that could make it into a regular rotation. It is a TAA cigar, so you gotta either order it online, or if you've got a TAA store local to you where you can pick one of these up. Like I said, we get these at the cigar shop incoming if you're local to the area. But with that, we're gonna be right back. And you've been watching the Cigar Nerds Podcast. Check us out on cigarnerdpodcast.com. We're on the ESO Network at esonetwork.com. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Cigar Nerd Pod. Remember, smoke 'em as you got 'em. Like, comment, and subscribe.